So it is the Detroit Lions bye week, week 8 of the NFL season. Surprisingly late for a Lions bye week, as usually we are stuck with the early week 5 bye, but finally for once we are given a decent bye week. Still not as good as it could have been like week 11 or 12, but week 8 I will not complain. It is a fairly fine bye week, and it actually comes at a good time, as I swear every bye week does, but with the injuries that have been piling up in the secondary, it is a great time for the Lions bye week to hit, even though the Lions are coming off a great defensive performance. I don't exactly want all of these backups in the secondary playing long term. So in that regard, the bye week could not have come at a better time, but this is actually not the point of this video. We're not here to talk about the benefits of the bye week. We are here to talk about how the season has gone so far for the Detroit Lions, and using the bye week as kind of an informal mid-season review. Obviously, we're not exactly halfway through the season, but with the bye week being close enough to the midway point of the season, I figured this would be a good time to kind of reevaluate where the Lions are at, take stock of where they're at, what's gone well, what hasn't, what needs to improve, and just break down everything that has happened through 7 games for these Detroit Lions this season. If you're new here, then welcome in. My name is Zach Payne. I make Lions content here on YouTube, so make sure to hit that like button and subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the content that comes out during the week and on a weekly basis during the season. I make game previews, game recaps, and I go live during every single Detroit Lions game with a watch-along sort of stream. So if any of that sounds of interest to you, make sure to have those notifications turned on so you don't miss it. And of course, if you're returning, then welcome back. Happy to have you back here as always, and let's go ahead and get into it. So the way that this video is going to work is I've kind of broken down 3 different sections that we're going to go through. We have what's worked, what has been okay or has been inconsistent or has not necessarily been a problem but hasn't been great. And then we have the last category, which is what actually needs to improve, what has not been good and cannot stay the same. Now, as you might expect for a team that is 5-2 and among the best in the NFL, there's a lot more good than bad so far, but we do have to be fair in looking at some of the bad as well. Now, one of the things that has been surprisingly very good for the Lions to start this season has been the pass rush. And now this is an area that we expected to improve with the health of Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously, him missing last year was a big reason that the pass rush was pretty anemic for large portions of the year. So with him back, that was obviously going to be a big boost. But the Lions have been on the hunt for someone to play opposite of Hutchinson. And there has obviously been problems generating pressure from the interior, especially with Aleem McNeil out and Levi was Rike out. So this was an area that coming into the season, a lot of people had their eye on, and that I admittedly was a little concerned about. And I'm happy to report that so far, so good. And for as much as Aiden Hutchinson himself has been very dominant as a pass rusher, as we've come to expect, he's one of the best in the league, and that is something that you don't have to worry about on a week-to-week basis. He'll get his 6, 7, 8, 9, sometimes 10 pressures a game. He's pretty money in the bank for 1 sack every game, or at least 1 every 2. Like, he's one of the best in the league, right? But the surprise has been the emergence of Al-Quadin Muhammad opposite him. He has chipped in, I think, 4.5 sacks to this point this season. He has been excellent and honestly a complete revelation. This is a player who was practice squad fodder that was forced into a fairly significant role last season due to the injuries on the defensive line. And now he's not only earned a spot on a more healthy front, but he's actually thrived and become a key situational pass rusher. The Lions have also been very good with using their blitz packages early this season. Obviously, the game against the Baltimore Ravens stands out in that regard, where they just had Lamar Jackson running for his life all night, and anytime he tried to step up to scramble, the linebackers did a great job of helping out and getting him on the ground. Derek Barnes has chipped in as a pass rusher as well, which isn't surprising, but he's been more successful than I was expecting so far this season. Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell have been great on the blitz as well. Campbell especially, he's got a couple of sacks so far this season. Tyleik Williams, who is not necessarily known for his pass rush chops, has been decent. He's got an 11% win rate from the interior, which is that amazing? No, but he's generating a decent amount of pressure. He's, averaging a pressure like once every 9 snaps, true pass rush snaps, that is. And DJ Reader, same thing. He's been pretty good at getting pressure, but he's also just been soaking up all the double teams, allowing guys like Muhammad and Hutchinson to have an easier workload. Of course, Aleem McNeil has also returned to the lineup, which he looked fantastic against the Buccaneers, getting multiple pressures and just looked really healthy. I thought there was going to be an adjustment period with some rust, but he came in flying. He was super quick and agile off the line. He did a great job of disrupting things up the middle, and I'm super excited to see what he brings to this lineup that had already been pretty good rushing the passer. Now, I'm going to tie these two together because the next 2 points I had on this list were the run defense, specifically up the middle, and the linebacker play. Those two kind of tied together because the strength of the team has been the linebackers on the defense, and the interior has done a good job of freeing up rushing lanes for them to get in the backfield and stop the run. So those two kind of play together. But again, Tyleik Williams and DJ Reader have done a fantastic job in the middle of that defense, just soaking up blocks. They are just anchors in there. They're not going to get a tackle every play. You don't need them to. The goal for those two is don't move. When the offensive line pushes, hold them and keep those rush lanes open so Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone and Derek Barnes can get in the backfield and disrupt things. And Jack Campbell has been absolutely fantastic as a run defender this season. He's among the league leaders in tackles because he's just been around the ball carrier so much this season. And Barnes and Anzalone have not been slouches either. Everyone in that front has been fantastic at defending the run when it's up the middle. And I include that caveat because it's going to tie into something I'm going to talk about later, but the rush defense, when it goes to the outside, still leaves some things to be desired. But up the middle, it's been very good. Now, it would be kind of foolish to not mention the offense as part of this. The Lions are third in the league, averaging 30.7 points so far through 7 weeks. They've also been fantastic. Rushing the ball, they're fifth in rush yards per game. Pass yards hasn't been as good, but we've seen that it's kind of a combination of things in games like the Baltimore game. They just ran crazy, ran for over 200 yards, didn't need the passing offense as much. We've also seen games like the Cleveland game where the defense put them in so many advantageous spots that the pass offense wasn't really needed as well. So the pass offense and the rush offense, like, it ties together. The offense in general has been good mostly. Again, I'm going to talk about some of the other things later, but for the most part, it would be very foolish to not mention the offense as a good thing when they're averaging 30 points a game. This next one is not one I expected to be talking about after the first couple of weeks of the season because it was awful, but this is definitely the most improved aspect of the team, and that's the special teams. The special teams to start the year were awful, and I had to talk about it in videos multiple times, and I didn't want to because you don't want to have to mention special teams. It's one of those things that you expect to not notice them as much or to not be as impactful. But to start the year, the Lions could not return a kick well at all. The punt coverage and kick coverage was not great either, and everything was just out of sorts. Too many flags, just all out of whack. Thankfully, they've gotten their you-know-what together. The special teams has picked it up. Jack Fox has been fantastic. The punt coverage has been fantastic. The kick coverage has been much improved, especially with Jake Bates kind of dialing in those kickoffs. He's been getting those kickoffs inside the 5-yard line, but out of the end zone pretty much every time. I'd say 90% of the time, which is fantastic. And kicks are being returned, in about that 25 to 30 yard range, which is fine because the touchbacks now take you out to the 35 if they're in the end zone. So you are gaining yards in that exchange, and there hasn't been as many flags. The returns have been better. It's just overall been a lot better and been good and been a strength of the team in the last 4 weeks or so. And then lastly, for the things that I've been really pleased with, rookie defensive coordinator Kelvin Sheppard. It's his first year as a DC, first year calling plays, and he has been very good. I didn't know exactly what to expect because he was Aaron Glenn's understudy, and you knew that the Lions were going to keep a lot of the same concepts that they've run in the past and a lot of the same principles, but Sheppard has adjusted a couple of key things, and it's helped the Lions defense just be that much better. Now, for starters, one thing that Sheppard does that Glenn didn't do enough of is tailoring the defense to the opponent you're playing. Aaron Glenn very much believed that if you play your defense the right way, if you play aggressive, you play man coverage, that you should be able to win your one-on-ones and be successful. And Kelvin Sheppard, he still believes that, but he's twisting it a little bit to where he will at least put the guys in proper positions to make plays. And the biggest examples of that I can think of are, if we go back in the past when Aaron Glenn was the DC, he did not believe in using a spy at all against mobile quarterbacks. He firmly believed that if you just contain and squeeze the pocket, you will at least keep the guys that are more mobile stationary to an extent. They won't get out. When they do, they're going to get their yards, but if you can force them into these third downs and force them to pass, you're going to find more success than not. And when we saw against Baltimore, against Lamar Jackson, who is the most mobile quarterback in the league, the Lions used spies, which is apparently, it was a foreign concept to me. I didn't even expect them to do it based on the years with Aaron Glenn, and they sacked Lamar Jackson 7 times, and they had a very good defensive day. The other thing that Sheppard has been doing that has worked amazingly so far is disguising coverages. Again, this is something that Glenn didn't necessarily use as much as he could have. He very much believed that, hey, we are going to do this and you're not going to beat us, and it didn't work that much, but especially with the man coverage on third downs. Kelvin Shepherd, what he's been doing is he's been doing a great job at showing one coverage at the snap and having his defense rotate into something else after the snap. We saw that a lot against Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay had a nightmarish experience in Ford Field on Monday night where a backup secondary was absolutely clamping them all night long on like 55 dropbacks. They only had 250 passing yards, only 9 points allowed. It was a clinic. And I just want to shout out Kelvin Shepherd. He has been phenomenal as a play caller this season and as a DC in general. Now, it's ironic for this next thing because I just talked about Kelvin Shepherd and how good of a job he's doing, but I do want to mention that the coverage has been very hit or miss this season, depending on who's available, depending on which game week to week. It's just been a little inconsistent, and I know that for a guy like Terrion Arnold, he gets an unreasonable amount of flack because he gets a lot more flags than most of the defenders, and whenever he allows a catch, it's suddenly Groundhog Day with him, and everyone's comparing him to Jeff Okudah, and it's a nightmare. But this is an entire secondary thing. There's been games like against Kansas City, the coverage was awful, and the Lions couldn't cover anything, and the Chiefs did basically whatever they wanted to on offense. And then there's games like the Bucs game where the Lions are locking down everything, and Tampa Bay can't do anything. So it's been inconsistent. Again, in that Bucs game, Baker Mayfield missed a number of throws as well. I've been content with the coverage overall, but I feel like when the Lions have done a great job in coverage, it's been more because they're doing a great job at messing with the other QB. And when the pass rush comes through, that's been when they've worked their best, because then you don't have to hold up in coverage for 4 or 5 seconds. It's a work in progress, but it's been more good than bad. But I do just want to flag it. Hasn't been perfect, so this is going in the it's okay segment. Next up, flipping over to the offensive side, I want to talk about the pass protection, because this is something that understandably has had struggles at times this season. Obviously, week 1, the 2 rookie guards, or Christian Mahog is not a rookie, but it's like his 4th career start. So I kind of classify him as a rookie, him and Tate Ratledge. In week 1, they were awful. They could not block anything. The interior of the Packers defensive front was dominating them. We've also had games where Taylor Decker has been out. The game with Giovanni Manu in against the Bengals was awful. Never want to relive that. And Trey Hendrickson just destroyed the left side of the offensive line. And Brock Wright, for some reason, who was tasked with blocking him at times. In general, it's been very good, and Penei Sewell is obviously a great pass protector and one of the best tackles in the league, and so that helps a lot. But everyone else has had moments where they've been beat. Decker's had moments where he's been beat. Glasgow has been very hit or miss this season, and I haven't loved his game. The 2 guards, generally good, but they are much better run blockers than pass protectors, especially Ratledge. Mahogany is a bit more balanced. Ratledge is a much better run blocker than he is a pass protector. So there's been some hiccups at times this season. I expect that to continue to get better as you have 2 young guards in there. But the pass pro, it's just been okay. Now this next one is maybe a little bit controversial, but I'm going to put the run game in here as it's been, again, inconsistent. The Lions have had a couple of games where they go off. The Baltimore game, the Tampa Bay game where Jahmyr Gibbs just took off, where they've been really good. But they've also had games where the run game isn't as good as it should be. And boils down to a few factors. One of it is the Lions are running a lot more duo this year out of jumbo packages. And sometimes when you're playing against stack boxes, you can't really run duo because there's too many guys to block. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have been running a lot between the tackles this season. You expect that from Montgomery. It's a little bit different for Gibbs. Obviously, Gibbs just had a phenomenal game against Tampa, so I don't want to discredit that at all. But that was the best game Gibbs has had all season, but it was a large step from what he had been doing previously as well. I think that there's another gear for this run game to hit, mainly because there's another gear for Jahmyr Gibbs to hit. He hit it on Monday night against Tampa, and I'm hoping that he can continue to build off that and be consistent with being that home run threat and having more explosive runs in general, because far too often he's just been getting bottled up within the first 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Even when the run blocking is good, it seems like the line will get a good push, but they can't get to the second level and block some of these linebackers that are flowing to the ball. So again, run game, good, hasn't been great yet, and it has the potential to be best in the league, which is why I'm going to put it in this category. And then last, I'm going to put John Morton in this category in the he's been okay camp. I've liked what he's done for the most part, keeping some of the same concepts, and the passing game working over the middle of the field has been excellent so far, but I have a number of criticisms against him that I want to see improve in the second half of the year. Number one is the third and long screens. I don't know what veteran offensive coordinators have against trying on third and long, and this is going to blend into what really needs to improve, but way too many third and longs. It's basically just a punt. You're predetermining a punt. You're throwing a screen to try to get 2 to 3 yards and not lose yards, I guess, or just running draw plays, giving up on plays and drives especially. I've not liked that. I've also been a little concerned with the Jameson Williams usage. Now, obviously, Jameson Williams has been the number one topic of conversation in terms of things that need to improve. However, I don't think it's entirely his fault. It's a lot of how he's being used. One of the best games JMO had, he got a game against the Chiefs, 6 for 66 and a touchdown, and they were actually using him underneath and over the middle and using more drag routes and crossing routes and just giving him the ball in space and letting him run. That's where he shines. Like, obviously, he is a deep threat, and you should use him on deep concepts to draw out the safeties to open up the middle of the field for Amon-Ra, for Laporta, for whoever. But it's been way too much of just JMO being a distraction for the defense rather than being a tool for the offense. So part of that I put on Morton, and part of that I put on JMO for just not necessarily playing his best. But it's a lot, like, Morton can do a lot more to get this guy more opportunities, and he raved about him in the offseason. So that's another thing. John Morton, just want to see continued improvement from him. And I'm just going to mention Jameson Williams now as the first what needs to improve in the second half of the season, because it's for all the reasons I just listed, but I will have him as the first big obvious thing. He has to be better. He has to be more involved. Part of that is him. Part of that is Morton, as I mentioned, but I'll just flag that. Now, I only have 2 big ones in this category, and the first one is something I alluded to earlier when I was talking about the run D, but setting the edge in the run game has been a big problem for this defense, and part of that has admittedly been Aiden Hutchinson. I don't know what is going on. He used to be so good at this, but he is crashing inside way too aggressively so far this season, to the point where if a play is an outside zone and a team, like, they'll purposely leave Hutchinson unblocked, knowing that he's going to jump inside and that they'll be able to run around him. And it's just very frustrating to watch, because this is a guy that is a very good run defender when he is disciplined in his rush lanes, but he's been just getting way too aggressive at that point on the inside. And that's something that needs to improve. And opposite of him, the Lions don't really have anyone that can set the edge effectively. Derek Barnes had to play edge for a lot of last game against the Bucs because Marcus Davenport is out. Josh Paschal is still out. Those are the 2 guys you look to set the edge in the run game. Davenport wasn't great before he got hurt. Josh Paschal is the one that is what he does. He is not a great pass rusher. He's not the most dynamic player, but he does one thing well, and it's very useful. He sets the edge in the run game, and I really miss that skill set right now, and I really hope he comes back soon. And then lastly, I was talking about this with the offense and John Morton, but playing behind schedule. If you were watching Monday Night Football, you would have seen this stat on the broadcast, but the Lions have not converted a 3rd and 10 or longer this season through 7 games, and they're 0 for, I think, 16 or 18, or it's a lot. The Lions have been in 3rd and longs a decent amount, not more than any other team in the league per se, but when they get into a 3rd and long, it's pretty much over. The drive is dead. This offense, the number one thing that they struggle with is playing behind schedule. And this is a continuation of a theme that they had under Ben Johnson, and it's under Dan Campbell as a whole. When the Lions are running the ball well and effectively, they are doing good on offense, because that means that their play action game is dynamic and effective, and they draw the defense in, open up the middle of the field, and Jared Goff can do whatever he wants. When the run game hasn't been effective and they get backed up and they're in true passing downs, they have not been nearly as effective. That's when the pass pro can break down a little bit, when other teams can pin their ears back, and Goff has not been able to find his targets as easily, and he's struggled, especially in that Tampa Bay game, against seeing some of the pressure coming at him. We know that interior pressure gives him a lot of trouble. So I'm really looking for that in the second half of the season. This Lions offense has another gear to hit, and it's entirely on being able to recover when things don't go to plan. This is a very good offense when they're playing well, and especially when they're running the ball. But if a team can stop the run, you will do a lot to stop the Lions in general. We saw that in week 1, especially against the Packers. We saw it in week 6 against the Chiefs in the third and fourth quarter when the Chiefs built a multi-score lead and the Lions had to abandon the run game. That's when the Chiefs defense started to tee off and get sacks and get pressure and get to Goff and stop the Lions, because when the Lions were put in those obvious passing situations, they didn't have an ability to beat a defense straight up in those areas. The Lions obviously have the talent to do that, but execution is a different thing. Part of that falls on Morton, part of that falls on the offense in general. Just playing behind schedule, they have to improve in. So that is my list. That is how I feel about the Detroit Lions at this point of the season. Again, they're 5-2. They're a very good football team. They are going to continue to be a very good football team. I fully expect them to win 11, 12, 13 games this season, be in contention for the NFC North title, be in the playoff picture. And at that point, the playoffs are the only thing that matters. So it's just about building to that point. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on the Lions at the bye week and what your expectations are for the rest of the season. I would love to hear from you. If you disagree with anything that I said in this video, again, leave a comment. I would love to have a conversation. I'd love to have a friendly little debate with you guys if you so choose. But aside from that, that's going to be it for this one. I'll be back later in the week with a preview of Lions Vikings. And until then, my friends, cheers.